and welcome back to Life to the Max. So on our channel, we talk relationships, travel, and fashion. And we not only believe in marriages, but we believe in godly marriages, especially amongst millennials, and not just surviving marriages, but thriving marriages. So today we'll be chatting with Brandon and Shotika Cox, our very dear friends. And just some lessons that they've learned about marriage through the pandemic.
So we're just gonna give you guys a little background about, Brandon and Shotika. So I met them through the Mola, so I'm gonna let the Mola do that.
So Tika and I met through work and built a really good friendship while we were both in the Northeast. And
I pretty much met them over Thanksgiving, and
yes.
Y'all, the food was bomb.
Yeah.
And then what else I have on?
This is all the fattening food. It's just good food that'll get you nice and fat.
That's all we need.
Once a year, that's fine.
Yeah, once a year. It was good that day. It was pretty good.
It was a good Thanksgiving.
That was the best, Thanksgiving yet, honestly.
Yeah.
So we'll just get right into it. All right? Yeah. So I guess, how has the pandemic and being on lockdown spiced up your marriage? Whether you learned new things about each other or oh, Brandon, you need to stay in that room and I need to be in this room. I mean, what are some things that you've learned due to being on lockdown and being at home pretty much, 24/7?
Yeah, so we're already pretty comfortable being with each other because we're mostly I already work from home. So I kind of leave, and then he works from home being an entrepreneur. So we're already comfortable in that aspect. But we spiced it up by saying, okay, let's take on some more responsibility. And we got a puppy. So we wanted to navigate into the puppy lane before navigating into the children lane. And from that, we learned that a child might be easier, that we might just need to go ahead and have some kids. So our puppy has really spiced up our life because now it's responsibility, and it's when you're out, we're oh my gosh, how long have we been out? We got to get back to the puppy, and what kind of food does she need to be on, and taking her to the vet and taking her out on walks. It's really shifted our life. I don't know, new puppy owners will understand that changes your whole dynamics of your relationship. Right. And so what it's also taught us is a little bit about our parenting styles already.
We're very strict.
So I always knew, I always thought I would be a strict parent because I come from a strict household, so we didn't play no games. And Brandon's always been when he's with my niece or with little kids, he's always playing with them. He's always the easy going. So we always thought he'd be easy going, but he is very strict on the puppy. He's very strict. And I'm more lenient. I'm oh, just let her have it. Or I'm kind of sneaking her food and stuff. So it taught us a lot about our parenting styles. And then I think we challenged ourselves to do different things and have fun with just each other. Because we've been having a good time during quarantine. We're having fun.
Yeah.
We're having fun. And so we've been challenging ourselves, even trying new meals out, or watching new shows together, or saying, hey, 6:00, let's have the house clean so that we can have a relaxing night, and that we can do something for ourselves, and taking walks and just different things like that.
Doing game nights and things like that.
We'll do games with just us.
Yeah.
We was playing dominoes by just me and him, and we was having a good time.
Because Tegan and I, honestly, we'll get bored easily. That's just the type of personalities we have. And so we always have to stimulate each other in different ways. Yeah. And so we just can't sit and watch TV all day. We have to try some different things. We have to have a game night with each other. We'll cook a new meal together. We'll go on a walk because that's not part of our everyday thing. So we're doing walking now. But we're just doing new things. So that's how we try to really, combat the challenges of really getting into the same repeating actions every day.
Yeah.
That's how we try to combat that. It's just trying new things and not being afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
You guys have touched on this already, and it's the fact that COVID has impacted both health and finances of marriages and couples, right? And our question is, why have these pressures and these external factors pretty much caused marriages to crumble? Because, you know, in the US, there's been a spike in the rate of divorce. So what do you guys think about that?
You know what? I really believe that a lot of these relationships had issues prior to COVID. COVID just amplified them. That's all it simply is. If you had 7 months prior issue with communicating or not setting, having boundaries with each other, or, verbal abuse, those type of things are going to be amplified during COVID. And so it only makes sense of why your relationship may struggle even more, because you're around each other even more, and you see so much more of, well, lack of a better word, dysfunction that you see in your marriage or each other. And some people simply just may not know each other like they thought they did. These people are working 8 to 5 jobs. In our culture, that is very normal to, pretty much give your life to the job. But now when things are reversed, it comes to family, like, oh, I didn't know this about you. Oh, I see this side of you, and I don't know how I feel about that. And so I can definitely see why relationships would struggle in this time. And yeah, that's my answer for that.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to ask, did y'all like each other before? Because to spend, you would think it's a privilege, like, oh, I get to spend time with my partner for life, my loved one. Yes, like we get to hang out. So did y'all even like each other? And that's why now that you're around him, he get on your nerves, or now that y'all are around each other, y'all can't stand each other. Did you like each other? And then the other thing I think about is like how some people rush the dating, the courting, and getting into marriage process where you have not ever had a challenge in your dating season. And so life is going good, but now we're in a pandemic, and now you're having some challenges. Now you're having some financial challenges, and you've never seen them deal with finances in this way. And you're not understanding why this is new to you, because you've never had a challenge. You rush that process. And that's why I'm always like, if you're going to date somebody, date them for 4 seasons, right? See how they act year round, because a challenge is bound to come up within the year. And so a lot of people rush into these relationships, and it's like, oh wow, we're having a challenge now. I ain't know this is how you dealt with conflict. I ain't know this is how you were going to do with the finances. Oh, what's this credit card bill? So I think it's like Brandon said, like, you had problems before, but it's just now, it's like you can only sweep something under the rug for so long until you trip up on it, right? Eventually you're going to trip. And so that's kind of what I think COVID is like now people are tripping over things that they've swept under the rug.
You got to deal with some issues that, just as she said, that you swept under the rug for so long. COVID is forcing people to deal with the issues. And either you're going to come out stronger, or your relationship may crumble.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Yeah. And
it's great.
You guys mentioned that. It's so important because it reminds me of that Bible verse that talks about like the foundation being built on rock and sand. You don't know how strong a house is until there's the storm. And I believe that's where you guys are talking about, like, when these things come, that's when you can tell, okay, there's cracks here, here. So not fixing that and waiting for the storm to come is where the problem is. That's a good point.
And I love your transparency right now. Like, it goes to show, like, marriages are thriving. Like, millennial marriages are thriving. Like, you have to figure out, different ways to spice it up. You have to figure out different ways to enjoy each other through each season. Things, like you said, they're going to change. Like, you just got to think of something new. Figure out how to have fun. And enjoy each other's presence. So, yeah, we just love the transparency with you guys.
It's great.
So we know you've been married for 6+ years now. We just want to know, like, what's been the most important truth that has held your marriage together for over 6 years, and being so young as well?
That's a great question. I think there's 2 things. The most important thing for me is God, one of them, and then I'll get to the other one a little later. But God, I realized that earlier in marriage, my relationship with God wasn't the same as it is today. And so, for example, I didn't have the same accountability to God because I just didn't have that relationship with him. But me having my relationship with God today forces me to be my best with God, which forces me to be the best of myself in marriage. So I try to be the best for my wife because I try to be the best for God. And so there's a scripture. What is the scripture? A cord of 3 strands is not quickly torn apart. And that speaks so much about marriage, because when both of you are being prideful one day, and when both of you are just in arguing and being stubborn, God's going to convict you. And there's been many moments where God has convicted us separately, and we come together at the same time. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. And so we really include God into our marriage. We think that is foundational. It is so purposeful for, both of us as individuals. And it makes me being in love with God, it makes me so much more in love with my wife, because I really strive to serve my wife.
You are talking to the brothers right now.
I serve my wife. I love my wife.
So beautiful.
I'll do anything for her, and I try to treat every day just to really speak to her love language and what she needs, and she does the same for me. And that's how.
Get your man. Get your man.
That's just how we do things. I mean, God is our core, and that's just foundational. And then the other thing is our friendship. Our friendship, the physical attraction is great, and my wife is beautiful, and I'm beautiful. But you know what? There's been so many changes during these 6 years. I used to have hair. I used to be a lot smaller and things like that. And there's been so many changes. And if your foundation of your relationship is something like looks or finances, that can change within a day. But if you have a core relationship of your friendship, that will always be there, that you guys together can get through things. And there have been many moments where Tika and I had to get through many situations, and what kept us was our friendship and God in that. So our friendship is our core. We developed that when we were 17, and we always made that the focal point of our marriage, to tell each other everything, and just to be transparent with each other. And even when we're afraid to communicate something, or we just try to do everything that we can to communicate with each other when it comes to any issues or anything like that. So God is our core, and our friendship is our truth within our marriage.
To add to that point, Brandon was talking about the friendship piece. I also remember hearing, like, the whole purpose of marriage is not to make you happy, right? It's to make you holy. Not that you cannot be happy, but that marriage is really the sanctification process to make you more like Christ and reveal things. And so that truth has held up. And another thing that I heard early on in marriage was that if you always try to outserve one another, you'll never get tired of that. And so that's one of the things that Brennan and I try to do, is try to outserve one another. How can I serve you today? How can I serve you today? And those truths, they stand firm in making us have a successful relationship. And then there was this other piece of advice that somebody gave me early in marriage, and she was like, listen, don't start anything that you're not going to be able to finish. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, don't start cooking 7 days a week just because you done got married, if you cannot continue that up. Don't start doing it, because you can't give somebody all of this, and then, 6 months down the line, he's going to be like, what happened to when you was cooking every day? What happened to this? And so don't start anything that you can't maintain. And that's the truth that I have stood on, and that has helped us through marriage, because I think, when you get as a newlywed, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do all of this. And, all of the women I know who are married, or all the husbands I know are married, they do this. And he cuts the grass every Saturday, and he barbecues on every holiday. Like, if you start that way, I'm going to expect you to keep that up. And so only start with what you can maintain. And then if you can add to that, I think that that'll help you in your marriage.
Yeah.
That is so good. And it reminds me of this quote by John Maxwell, who says that, when you choose to start something, you didn't only choose to start, you actually chose to finish as well.
Yeah.
So when you choose to start something, you better make sure you can finish it. I like that point. That's a great point.
Yeah, and like the key thing is like growth. Like from everything that you guys have shared, like, you know, growing with God, growing in your relationship with God, growing and learning more about each other every single day. Like the growth part is really key to continuing it, right?
Yeah. Knowing that God is not just an add-on, it's like the core.
The core, yes, absolutely.
So what would you guys say, or what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self who is considering marriage, or any millennial who is like on the border of settling and getting married?
It's a good question. I'm sure we got two different answers, but I will say this: it's worth it. Although it comes with its challenges, and being married early, you're still getting adjusted to life and really just coming into your own. The thing is, one thing that I realized being married 21 and where I am now is we have built this empire together. You know, we have got to see over the course of 5-6 years our achievements, you know, and to see, you know, what we were able to do, and to see my wife be able to get promoted, and me getting a new position at, you know, Hope City and things like that. And just to see where we were able to pay off debts together, we were able to buy 2 houses together, we were able to just do everything together. And so we're just doing life together. It's worth it. And some people will think about it, oh, well, you know, you only get to be with one person for the rest of your life, And I'm like, you get to be with one person for the rest of your life. It's all about perspective. It's just perspective. I get to be with one person and share all my moments and memories with her for the rest of my life. I think that's beautiful. And so, yeah.
I think I'd say don't get caught up in this comparison trap. Kind of earlier to what we said earlier. You know, comparison is the thief of joy. But I think it's so easy to do, especially when you're young, right? And then we're in this social media driven world. You're 20 years old and you don't have everything, right? You don't have the car, and you ain't got the house, and you don't have all the money, and you can't take the elaborate vacations quite yet. And I think that can really discourage you. And it can impact your marriage and have a strain on your marriage. Why aren't we doing this? Why can't we be like so-and-so? Well, they just got this and they got that, and they got to go to Hawaii, and why can't we do that? And I think that comparison trap really is a detriment to your marriage. So I'd say don't get caught up in that, but to find that contentment. You know, like the Apostle Paul said, he said, I've learned to be content regardless of my circumstance, regardless of my situation. When I had a lot, and when I had a little, I was still content. And so I think if you learn to be content, that, hey, if you really are with somebody that you love, oh my gosh, like I've got everything I need, you know? And so to find contentment in that, and to understand that all of that is going to come, you know, the house and the family and all of those things are going to come, but that comes from a place of you being content. And so don't get caught up in comparison, or even, you know, I know some people, they went to the courthouse because they loved each other, and that's where they got married. And that's beautiful. That's just as beautiful as you having the 300-acre lot and being able to have all your friends and family. It's both beautiful. And so just be content in what your marriage is and what it looks like. That's what I would encourage you.
Yeah. You don't need a lot to be happy. You don't need a lot. If you can still have fun in your struggle moments, when your TV's off, you don't got any games, y'all don't got any money to go out to eat, and all you're doing is, you know, making pizzas and playing tic-tac-toe. You know, if you can make it through those moments, you're gonna have a thriving marriage. And so it's in whatever scenario, in the good and the bad, when you guys are struggling financially, and whatever, if you guys can make it through those hard moments, you could really make it through anything. And we've been through it. We've been where we had to survive off of $20-$25 for that whole week, and we were eating garbanzo beans, chickpeas and stuff like that, and we had to get creative and make it work. That was our marriage. But you know what? I really appreciate those moments within our marriage, because we did something new, and it just made us stronger partners. You know, in the end. Yeah.
To become one, right? Yes. Literally, in all forms.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is powerful.
Yeah. So, we believe in healthy marriages, healthy communication, doing life together, and believe that the foundation of marriage should be centered around God, and also just living your marriage to the maximum, anything that you do and just living your blessed life, because we really only have one life to live. And there are just so many blessings that we are giving each and every single day. So what would an abundant, overflowing marriage life look like to y'all?
Yeah, so, the word is clear that the Lord wants for us to have an abundant life. And for me, what abundance looks like is, for an abundant marriage, to me, that's a marriage that leads others to Jesus. That's an abundant marriage. That's an overflowing marriage. If my marriage is a reflection of Christ and his character and the way that he loves us and the way that he loves the church, if my marriage is a reflection of that, it's an abundant marriage.
Yeah.
And for me, I think an abundant marriage looks like when you're able to have influence over others within your marriage, because there's this negative status on marriage that we should wait getting married. You should only get married when you're older. That you should avoid getting married because it's only just signing a piece of paper and you're signing your life over. Marriage is so much more for that, so much more than that. So we need more people like you guys and like us and others that can really just set the example of marriage, of what this really is, that it's a lot of fun, that you can really live a life that's just full of blessings and fun and really be happy together. That's what marriage is to me. So I really want to shift the image of what marriage looks like and what our culture makes it look like today. So.
And then I always say, refer to 1 Corinthians 13, right? If you need to know what your marriage ought to look like, and so for me, overflowing is that our marriage is patient, that we're kind with one another, so that we don't keep record of wrongdoings with one another. That's abundance and that's overflowing, and that lets me know that we're reflecting Christ's image in our marriage.
Wow.
I got nothing to say.
Got nothing to say after that.
Like too much.
Yes.
Wow. You guys are definitely living your lives in full. Because the way I understand the full life is not just, the good things that we have, but also, the times where things are not good, but still we remember who Christ is, remember who God is and all of that. And that's definitely a full life, right? You guys are doing that to the maximum. We really appreciate you guys for that.
Yes, and it's not just for show. These are real relationships.
Yes,
this is a real marriage,
guys.
Yes. And that's just beautiful to see. And we really just appreciate you all sharing and being an open book to our family here, And so thank you to the Cox'S for joining us here today. And in addition to that, not only are they living their marriage fully into the maximum, Shotika also is a podcaster. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Sip This Tea?
So Sip This Tea podcast, you can find it on any podcast platform. It's a podcast where a girlfriend and I, we have conversations about relationships from a millennial perspective, and we talk about current events, and we center it all around Christ. And so check that out whenever you get a chance.
Phenomenal content, honestly. Check it out. Spotify, iTunes, all of them. It's all on there, okay? And if you haven't already, hit that like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Millennial marriages are thriving. They are out there.
And don't forget to live your life to the max.